Woodlandville, even the Gun Hill, from Freeman Street to Prospect Avenue, Fordham Road, Car City to Elder Avenue, Valley Park, Eaton Wall to Bronx River, Bronx Deal, Soundview, Bar, baby. I'm boogie down like this Chalk King Mario within the playground. This is how it go down.
Hey everybody, here it is. We made it. It is the very first edition of the Bronx Music Podcast. This is actually the second iteration. We did a couple of shows that didn't work out. As a long story nobody wants to hear about. But right now I think we're in a really good place. We're at The Artist on City Island, and the proprietor of The Artist is here, is our very first guest, Elliot Glick. Nice to see you. Nice to have you.
Good to see you too.
Bill Graham, the great entrepreneur of the Fillmore East, used to say, "It's my candy store. I can play with a microphone whenever I want."
Yes.
Here's the problem. It's his house, but I'm playing with the microphone today. and so I'm just going to start and introduce the Bronx Music Podcast at The Artist on City Island with me, Gary Axelbank. And I just want to communicate what we're going to try and do, and what for me is a very challenging artistic question, because my background is radio. A lot of people, some people may know and some people may not know that I was a radio DJ as my first real professional jobs, going back, I don't even want to tell you how long ago, 1976.
Oh my God.
I know, it's horrifying. Listen, we don't have to go into it, but
Gave me that line.
I was 24 years old when I was the program director of a progressive rock station, which now when I look at 24-year-olds, I'm saying that was me running, hiring professional people. It was crazy. So that's my background. And when this whole notion of podcasts came about, I was like, wait a minute, it's a radio show. That's what we did. This was a radio show. And so I'm tuned into that. That's what my nature is. But now we're doing it at the best concert venue in the Bronx, which is The Artist. And there are some people in the house, and eventually we're going to build it up, and we're going to have a lot of people in the house. We hope to make it a every first Sunday brunch thing. But from the host's point of view, am I playing to them? Am I playing to the guest? How exactly do I present it? And what I concluded, and this was many nights of losing sleep over what to do, what are you going to do with this beast? I decided I'm just going to do what I used to do and do a radio show, even though I was a DJ and not a talk show host. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do a radio show, and people will get to watch the radio show, and the musicians will get to perform, and then maybe they'll play concerts and stuff like that, and we'll fill the house, and we'll really try to make it a real happening here in City Island. And actually it works out very well, because the sun is the beautiful sun on City Island is shining through the windows, and I can't see a thing.
Yes.
So I'm better off, other than you and your guitar.
It's all silhouettes.
All silhouettes out there. They're very nice people. Listen, let's thank George Williams, who's doing the tech. My production assistant is Sydney.
It was fast and painless, I have to say.
So far. Sydney Hyatt. Monica Glick is your boss. She handles all the business for The Artist. And of course, my wife Suzanne is here, who is my boss. And so here we are. So you became a musician at some point. When did you first have a guitar in your hand?
The Beatles performed on Ed Sullivan. And the next day I went to school, and all the girls spoke with a British accent, a fake British accent. And I said to myself, I got to get a guitar. And I did.
It would be kind of funny to say, well, you were the only one who was affected by that.
Yeah.
But of course, we all were. What was it? It was February 9th, right?
Yes.
So we're recording this on the 4th, so it's
Yes.
practically actually it was 64, so you could do the math. Is what?
It's
60 years.
60 years.
Wow.
In fact, 20 years ago, on the 7th of February, it was we opened up this place.
It's called the Starving Artist Cafe. And every time I say we're doing it at the Artist, they go, "Is that the Starving Artist?"
Yeah, we dropped the starving part.
Well, you look well fed.
I got tired of all the jokes. But, and you shouldn't name your business before lunch. So,
so you opened, what you were saying is you opened it up, in essence, on the anniversary.
Yes, the 40-year anniversary of the Beatles arriving in America. And in fact, a friend of mine gave me a pin from 1964 with the Beatles on it, an antique pin. And I still have that, too.
Wait, and he did that way back then?
No, he did that on the opening day.
On the opening day, wow.
He said, "I know what today is here." And he gave me that.
You know, I hadn't anticipated talking about this because we were going to feature you, but discussion of the Beatles and what they meant to all of us who were alive at that time and to the world. That moment literally changed the world. And I'm going to do the very brief history of it because I think it's interesting. They played American music. They gave us
back our music.
They gave us back. They took Elvis Presley and Smokey Robinson and Buddy Holly and all the great American rockers. They were so inspired by it, so they played that and then gave it a new look. And it was like, wait a minute, it's like something inside us said this was our roots.
It was just the anniversary of the day the music died.
Buddy Holly,
the plane crash. And the music did kind of die. After that, we got all the pretty Italian boys from Philly, Frankie Avalon,
right.
Bobby Rydell.
Paul Anka. I don't know if he was from Philly.
He was Canadian.
Okay.
I think a Lebanese Jewish guy, but
okay.
I'm not sure. I did bump into him.
It's the Bronx, man. We accept everybody. Everybody's
right.
welcome.
That's
right.
This
is our home.
Well, he
this
wrote a ton of hits. By 16, he was a major songwriter. But anyway, Kennedy got shot during that time, and
3 months before,
and so the world kind of went down the rabbit hole a bit. You know, it was a depressing time.
American youth were like everybody else, and it was like, oh my goodness, what is our world coming to?
Yes. What's the future?
Somebody who embodied the future. And then all of a sudden, these guys show up playing our music
and give us back our innocence.
What was the message? She loves you. I want to hold your hand.
Yes.
Love. It was all. Yeah. So from that moment, when did you actually learn to play the guitar? Well, hey girls, I'm playing the guitar. But when did you actually learn how to play the guitar?
Not long after that, I was in music class, and the guy next to me saw me drawing guitars on my notebook instead of copying down the math homework and the English assignment or whatever it was. And that guy said, "Do you play?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Why don't you come to my house? I'll show you some chords." Wow. And he did. He went on to write Brooklyn, the musical. A shout out to Mark Schoenfeld. But he taught me 3 chords, and I can only do 2 of them. And he told me, well, just play these 2 chords, strum them 8 times
G and C
each.
Or G and D?
It was G and C.
Yeah.
And he said, I'll show you. He said, just do this.
We happen to have a guitar here in the best concert venue in the Bronx. And that's what you learned first.
And I learned that, and while I was doing it, he said, "You can do it, see?" And I said, and he started singing, "You don't realize how much I need you."
Aren't you skipped the beat?
And so I said, "Oh my God, I can play. And so I ran out and I got my father to buy me a guitar. And he had bought me drums a couple of months before that. So
were they musicians? Your parents were musicians?
Not at all, no. Well, that's a whole other long story about my DNA. But the thing is,
listen. Let's be real. Monica's going. Don't go there.
Yeah. I know. I see her out of the corner of my eye there.
In the silhouette. Yes. Okay. Go ahead.
And so anyway. To make a long story short, I was the only one in my family with musical ability, and
maybe that's why.
And I got all the looks too. I'm sorry, Lauren. Lauren's my sister, But seriously, though.
Little did we know that the Bronx Music Podcast was going to give Elliot Glick a chance to really diss the people he's been thinking about all these years. Okay.
Anyway, so I learned to play guitar. My father bought me a guitar. He showed up at high school. I went to Evander, and he showed up outside the school. I was rather surprised. And he said, let's go look in the trunk. And I was a little scared for a minute.
Dead body back
yeah,
there?
I was a little scared. And he opened up the trunk, and there was a guitar there that he bought at Harmony Music Store on Unionport Road in Parkchester, right off of Tremont.
Our engineer George Williams is shaking his head.
Shaking
he recognizes it. Yeah.
And so he bought me that, and I learned to play it, and I went back and I got better than Mark, the guy that taught me.
Do you read music? Did you do anything formally, or it's really?
No, I learned to read music with my first students in the 70s when I started teaching guitar.
Wow.
The first 2 students, I had to learn to read music. So,
the other thing I know about you, we're going to have Elliot play in just a moment or two, but the other thing that I just think is so interesting is, we were here the other night and you were talking about some when we were celebrating the artist getting that recognition, and you were talking about other things that you did. You were what do we want to talk about first? You were a jeweler. We want to talk about you hanging out in the village. Tell me what we did.
Out of high school, I got a job as a jeweler's apprentice down in the jewelry district, 47th Street and all that. And I learned, we worked mostly in gold. And my stuff was
good idea.
My stuff was in the pages of the Sunday paper for Fortunov and Bloomingdale's.
Jewelry that you created?
That I didn't create them. I made them. Somebody else created them.
Wait. What do you mean by somebody else created?
There's a jeweler, a stone setter, a polisher. There's all those different jobs. My job was to clean them all up, solder on prongs or whatever it needed.
And did you learn that, or you just did it because you needed to?
Antoine of Rome. Who
was that like on 46th Street and 6th Avenue?
Yeah. Antoine of Rome, who was Tony from White Plains Road. He.
Man, it's all Bronx to me.
It was all Bronx.
It's always Bronx.
He taught me everything he knew. And he was old school, old world. I thought it was abuse, but he really was training me right. And I'm about to embark on the jewelry business again. This cafe started out.
Wait, you mean now you're about to embark?
I'm about to embark. I just set up my jewelry bench at my house.
We just broke news, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm going to launch an online store for my jewelry designs.
Really?
I'm not going to do any repairs anymore or anything like that.
How are you going to get the gold?
And I'm going to get a ski mask and
No. And so you still have a passion for it, obviously.
Yes, I do. I slowly started buying tools like 8 months ago, and we went away on vacation. I came back like refreshed and ready to
then start a new life. So, but wait a minute. So I thought there was also a period of time that you were playing in the village. Didn't you tell me you played at some? of the
Yes, I
clubs?
did. When I was a young guy.
Because it is the music podcast. It's not the jewelry. podcast.
Okay. So here's I was in a garage band as a kid, and we played high school dances and community center dances and people's backyard party dances, whatever there was. And we got like $10 a man.
Electric guitars, acoustic guitars?
Electric guitar, and the whole setup, drums, bass, everything. And
you can see it all back here too.
And
I forgot, it's a podcast, but it's not TV. Okay, good.
Oh. So anyway, what happened was Bob Dylan. I started listening to Bob Dylan. A girl gave me his album.
Big mistake.
And so I thought, well, I need to go to the village. So I quit the band and I went down to the village and I auditioned at all these places, got turned down by every one of them. I thought I was going to be the next Bob Dylan, and when I got down there...
First you thought you were going to be the next Beatles, okay,
yeah.
And now you thought you could be the next Bob Dylan. Good idea. It didn't work out.
I always aimed high.
Yes.
and I never got too hurt when I crashed.
Right.
But so I went down there, and there were 1,000 Bob Dylans all auditioning for the same gigs. And so I thought, well, I've got to change what I'm doing. And somebody told me, write what you know, write what you feel. And so I started to do that, and the songs changed. And
that was before the jewelry thing? Or at the same time?
No, it was around that time.
Around that time, wow.
When I got out of high school, and I was old enough to go to those. Well, you had to be 18 in those days to go to places with alcohol, and
you still do, my friend.
you had to be 21.
I mean, I realize
right?
it hasn't come
21.
up for you in a long time. Do you want to play something?
All right, I'll play a song.
Twist my arm, ladies and gentlemen. All right, here we are at the Artist, and we are with the artist. It is Elliot Glick, and he's going to play us something.
This song got me a lot of strokes around the world. Actually, it was on every internet radio station. It was Song of the Day on one of them. I don't
Really?
remember
How
which
long
one.
ago?
10 years ago, about maybe 11 years ago. I have the CD here. It's not.
We happen to have it. Now, I know it's radio, so if I hold it up, nobody will see it, but there are cameras here, so we'll show it.
You have to imagine it, okay? It's a good-looking guy on the cover.
With a better-looking woman next to him, his wife, Monica.
Well, that's, I always aim high. And so one day I get a phone call. It was on Armed Forces Radio, Hoo-ah Radio. Those of you that saw Scent of a Woman, and Al Pacino kept saying, hoo-ah. It's a military expression.
Yes.
And so I was on Hoo-ah Radio, and the DJ called me on the phone and said, would you like to talk to soldiers in Afghanistan and Iraq? And I said, sure, when do you want to set this up? She said, right now I'm going to patch you in to both countries. And she did, and they interviewed me, and they loved the CD, and they loved this song in particular. And that, to me, was the highlight of the whole thing, of the whole project. So I'm going to play that song.
It's a song you wrote?
Yeah. And the whole album is songs I wrote. It's a Valentine to my wife. They're all love songs, and 12 of them. I actually wrote 17, and I picked the 12.
The best 12, I'm sure.
The best 12.
Yes.
When the stars shine. I sang the wrong words right up there. Like so much sparkling grain, everybody does what they must do to try to help them make it through. I look for you. I look for you. Well, everybody searches for what they might receive, and they fill the churches for something to believe. It's all a mystery with circular clues, and you're the other half of all I try to do. I look for you. I look for you. When the world is over and quit spinning round, I can't start it over with what I found and look for you. Well, men build towers, men knock 'em down, and they covet power, and they don't spread it round. Men have the power to destroy, it's true, and the power to create joy too. I'll look for you. I'll look for you. When the world is over and quit spinning round, I will start it over with what I found, and I'll look for you. I'll look for you. I'll look for you.
Wow. Elliot, just beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Now, just to recap, so you played this on Armed Forces Radio? Is that what you?
They played the CD.
They played the CD.
And they talked to me about it, that they listen all the time.
They did a podcast.
Yeah, they did, in a way. And I was just amazed, really, that I was talking to soldiers.
And you know what puts it together is the lyric that they tear the buildings down, but then there's, well, it's just beautiful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So where in this kind of mosaic of a biography, because we did the music, then we did the jewelry, and this, that, and the other. When and how did the Starving Artist Cafe on City Island? Now, what's the address? 249. 249. Just so people will know. Where does that come into this picture, and how did it take place?
Okay. Well, I had a jewelry shop a block up.
Really? Here on City Island Avenue?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't realize.
Called the Starving Artist Studio and Gallery, designs by Elliott.
Talk about mining and that's, I use that word appropriately. Talk about mining a concept. Yeah, go ahead.
And so we became quite popular and did very well there. And then 9/11 happened, and the dollar plummeted and gold and silver skyrocketed. And that's a tip for any investors there.
Why, to knock down the building so you could get a better price on gold? Is that what you're telling me?
No, I got a worse price on gold.
Okay.
It almost put me out of business because gold went from $200 an ounce to $2,000 an ounce. Silver went from $5.50 to $250 an ounce.
Wow.
And in order to, if I had to raise the price on all my jewelry, because you buy that, and I have to make more jewelry. So now I have to have enough money to buy that much silver, which is now 10, 15 times what it was.
You know what's fascinating about that is a different sort of crisis with the pandemic happened, 20 years later, and it had a similar effect on various elements of the economy. And I think people who may be younger wouldn't realize we had the same thing after 9/11.
Yeah.
Well,
the pandemic
that really is fascinating, Elliot.
So after 9/11, I realized the the jewelry business is not going to do it for me, financially.
Oh, so then you went to the starving artist. That was really the big money.
So then I decided, well, if I'm going to run out of business, I might as well do it singing.
Do it with something that I love to do. So then you found this space?
Yeah. I found this space. Actually, the landlord came into my shop and said, we would love you to take
I'm sure he would.
the storefront. And I came to look at it, and I said, okay, we'll do it. And it's over 100 years old.
And what was the concept that you had at that time the same concept that we're looking at now when we
No, adapt and survive is the name of the game, in life.
Hence the starving artist.
And so once you start a business or any endeavor, really, it becomes a living, breathing thing and takes on its own life, and you kind of hang on and go for the ride and facilitate,
But my question is just from a personal level. So you were married at the time?
Yes.
And Monica, who's so talented at so many of these things, was she involved, or was it really your project? And she said, "Okay, Elliot, go do your
Everything
thing."
I've ever done since I met her, she's been involved.
Oh, I look for you. That was
Yeah. And so if the world ended, I'd be looking for her again.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we've come close a couple of times already.
Yes, yeah.
Unfortunately.
so during the pandemic, I was sitting home, and we were closed down, and it was indefinite. Because the mayor and the governor said you can't have projectile singing, and you can't have performers with a mask, singing through a mask. And so we closed down, and after about 2 weeks, I was saying, I want to play. Am I never going to play again? I want to do something. And I don't want people to forget the artist, So I did a show from my couch, Monica and I, my wife and I.
I think I remember that.
I
may have seen
the couch
that.
show.
And a lot of musicians were doing that. Even I remember
Yes.
the Doobie Brothers, for example, did a whole thing where they each played a piece of their thing just to keep us all spiritually alive. And all the musicians did it. I mean, that's just one
I didn't figure out how to have guests, because I didn't want to invite people into my home either.
Well, I didn't figure that out
COVID.
until I came here. So
and so I did the show, and people watched, and even from other countries like Italy and Ireland and Germany, and people started sending in money. And we set up a GoFundMe.
I'm sorry, I reacted to that. That's unbelievable.
And they sent in money, and we paid the rent on this place. And I thought, okay, so I'm retired now. I'm gonna, I'm out of business, because it went on and on. It was like 16 months we were closed. And so I said, well, if I'm retired, I'm just going to do the couch show every Saturday, and people send in money, and I'll be good.
Would that it were so easy.
Well, it wasn't, because they lifted the ban, and I opened again, and people stopped sending in money, and now I had to get them to come back into the shop.
So wait, so then at what point did it become from the starving artist to the artist?
We built this stage. We used
because
to
you
have
didn't have a stage here.
No, everybody used to sing over in the window. And
really?
Yeah, and it's a very small area. I know it's a podcast, but it's a very small area, and people were playing their guitars, vertically.
Because they didn't have enough room.
Yeah, and so I decided I wanted to have a stage, and we didn't want to cook hot food anymore. We got out of that whole end of the business, and I just have finger foods now and pastries. My daughter's a pastry chef from Culinary Institute, and
which, by the way, we're hoping as we develop this that we would have like a brunch thing or a coffee. and
turn this into a brunch.
Yeah,
I would love it. And so that's what I'm saying. We just keep evolving somehow,
There's something very, very organic about it. I just was thinking about the kind of the creation of it was organic, and it kept developing do you have a vision for the future for it, or?
Well, now that I've reached this age, and I'm going to be 75 this year, I stopped making 5-year plans.
I'm doing a drum roll. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I stopped making 5-year plans because they're getting scary now. But I just go with it, and I'm not in the business of saying no, generally. So
This is why we're here.
so I go. If it sounds
We
good,
made it.
it is good, you know, and I try it. If we can't make it work, we're on to the next thing, and no tears. You know?
The whole thing. I'm just trying to process it because the interaction of the creation of this place is directly related to the greatest tragedies of our lifetimes, and that was 9/11 and the pandemic. And we know all the bad things that happened, and we lost people. My mom died. We know we had a lot of horrible things that happened, but there are some good things, and
Yes.
we were motivated to do. And frankly, these podcasts and the interaction that we have on the internet is largely a result of this.
You could throw your hands up and give in and quit when those things happen and go down the rabbit hole, or you can say, how do I get up out of this?
You know, man, I am so into this dialogue, and then what you do in those circumstances is you rely on the things that are not material, that may be spiritual. Many people, I'm not that religious, so to speak, but many people are religious. But you rely on the things that give you personal comfort. I know for me, it's always, my wife would know, there's always music playing in the house. It's like I can't put on my clothes if I don't have music on, or I can't take a shower if I don't have music on. And because that's so for me it was always getting into whatever my art or my creativity was, and for you and the artist, that's what happened.
And there was never a shortage of people that wanted to share their art and their music and their craft. You know?
I want to just talk about the placement of this on City Island. When we were here that other night, when we were doing the celebration of being noted the best concert venue in the Bronx, the place was packed. I think it was a Saturday night. And what I really appreciated, because you mentioned that, you don't do the kitchen thing as much as you used to. You do have stuff that people can, enjoy. People came in with a bottle of champagne and their group, and they sat around these tables, and they just had a little party. Part of that, and
they didn't even give me a glass. No, I'm kidding.
It still made you pay for the glass. But part of that, I know, is because of the community at City Island. These were all City Island people around, and they just loved hanging out. That's why I think what we're doing today is going to resonate, because they're going to love having a good talk about learning about musicians, learning about music, and just being around with us.
I lived all over the Bronx, a lot of places.
Really?
Oh, a lot of
let's go. Come on.
All right. Well, I grew up on Boston Road between Eastchester and Gun Hill in Hillside Homes.
Okay.
And I lived all up and down White Plains Road, 228th Street, 233rd Street, 238th Street, 242nd
Why did you
Street.
move so often? Or is just that's what happened in the world?
Because it's over a 60-year period, or a 75-year period. But I came out of the service and I had to live somewhere, and I lived in the East Village, and on Avenue B between 6th and 7th.
I just think it's important to have this dialogue, because people who know you, people who know the place, will come in here and now hear, look at all the depth, look at all the places. All of that goes into where we are, and of course what your music is.
And in all of those neighborhoods, I've never felt more a part of a community than I have on City Island, almost from the day I got here.
And how long have you been here?
I've been here 27 years now, I think. Okay. 27.
He looks over
My
at
wife
Monica.
is nodding her head.
She knows the answers.
I'm not usually right. She doesn't usually nod her head. She usually goes no. And
I want to.
No, Elliot.
We'll give you a chance to play another piece, but I want to just begin to wrap this up with a personal statement about things that you said. Now, we grew up essentially in the same era. Certainly, the Beatles had beyond profound impact, and of course the longevity of their music. If anybody doesn't listen or hasn't listened to Beatles music, you'll see it sounds different and more distinct than anything else. And certainly my wife and I, the first conversation we ever had was about how much we both loved the Beatles. And then the other thing which I have learned looking back in my own life, which you brought up as well, I believe, and now Paul Simon wrote, "When I think back on all the crap I learned in high school, it's a wonder I can think it all." Listen, I have no regrets about my time at DeWitt Clinton High School and everything else, but I believe it was Bob Dylan who taught me how to think.
I think so.
That the lyrics were just puzzling enough that you said, wait a minute, what is he actually saying?
That you had to think.
That you had to go figure it out. And then I became an English major in college, and of course now, whatever I do now.
And the poets he embraced. I had to find out who they were, what they wrote, and I read all of those things. I went through the same experience.
And I'm guessing people who grew up like we did feel the same way. And I do want to mention that the objective of this is not to just bring on people, like me and Elliot who grew up together. We're going to bring in all different people. I got an opera singer who wants to come on. I got an R&B singer who wants to come on. We're going to bring, and certainly we're going to do hip hop. We're going to do everything that's in the Bronx. We're going to do Bronx music. We'll do some jazz. We'll do Latin and all that. So you want to play a song?
Okay. I can't wait for all of that, by the way.
Well, and the idea we're going to do it once a month, the first Sunday of every month. This is the first one. So far, it's going good. George hasn't yelled at me about anything yet, so I think I'm okay.
No.
Okay.
I've been watching to see if his head goes like that. And I see Monica over there, so I know when she's going.
And I know there's people out there in the Gloman out there. Go ahead.
All right. This is another song from that CD. In a way, it's a similar message. This is called When You Smile. Well, transportation obligation, too many things that have to pass from A to B. Come down to me. But I'm a stand-up guy, I do my part. I push the cart, I take all my responsibilities very seriously. But the passing parade will all fade away when you smile. Oh, baby, when you smile. We watch the news and search for clues that we can use to inform our views, but all we see is a shroud. For crying out loud. And as we sift, we see the rift. Left and right, we're on a cliff with our heads stuck up in the cloud. And I'm crying out loud. But the passing parade will all fade away when you smile. Baby, when you smile. Well, seems to me that storm clouds are gathering. They're nothing but blues for a while. And I need one thing, and one thing only. It's your smile. Your smile. Well, money worries, heroes hurry, others scurry, their image blurry. They vanish in thin air, me standing there. Fear and loathing, all weather clothing or armor coating that you wear to protect you from the scare. Till we're nowhere but the passing parade will all fade away when you smile. Baby, when you smile. Baby, when you smile. Oh, baby, when you smile.
There you go. Elliot Glick. Once Upon a Time with Elliot Glick.
Thank you.
Elliot, thank you so much for everything. I think our collaboration on this podcast for today was fantastic, but it's going to get better and better. Not that you're not going to be on, but other people are going to be. But listen,
My mind didn't go there until you said that. Now I'm worried.
Listen, thank you so much. You know, by the way, when you mentioned G and C, because when I learned to play the guitar, Everyday People is G and
Oh, that's
C.
right.
Right? Sometimes I'm right. Anyway, listen, thank you so
I
much.
thank you for everything
Great.
you do, too, in the
Great.
community.
So I guess we're going to wrap it up. This has been the first edition of the Bronx Music Podcast with Gary Axelbank. And at The Artist on City Island, I think we've got a really great concept here. We're going to build it up. We're going to invite people the first Sunday of every month. Everybody will get in the habit. We'll come out to City Island. We'll make a lot of people a lot happier. And thank you to George Williams, who's our tech guy, to Sydney Hyatt, who is our production assistant, and to my wife, Suzanne. And eventually we're going to load the place with human beings, and it's going to be quite a scene. So I don't know what I always say on the air, if the curtain don't fall and the creek don't rise, I'll be back. But I will just say 2 words to my friends and neighbors in the Bronx: love and peace.
Olinville, even the Gun Hill, from Freeman Street to Prospect Avenue, Fordham Road, Car City to Elliott Avenue, Valley Park, Eaton Wall to Bronx River, Bronx Deal, Soundview, Bar, baby. I'm boogie down like this King Mario within the playground. This is how it go down, uptown.